On October 9th, 2025, Klein Investigations and Consulting, the team hired by Thomas Brown's mother to investigate his death, released a public statement and the full autopsy report from the second autopsy that was done earlier this year. According to Klein Investigations, the report was supposed to remain sealed. However, a redacted version was leaked online, which they say distorted the findings. In response, they decided to release the unredacted version, and there are some significant developments inside. Hello. Welcome back to Their Voice Matters. I'm Amanda, and here I share the stories of victims whose voices deserve to be heard. If you'd like to help keep these stories alive, please click the like button and subscribe or follow the podcast. It really helps more people discover Thomas's story and others like his. If you watched my 2-part coverage of Thomas Brown's case, you'll remember that much of the debate has centered on whether Thomas's death was self-inflicted or the result of a homicide. If you haven't seen those, I'll leave them linked in the description, but here's a quick recap. Thomas Brown was an 18-year-old who disappeared in Canadian Texas the night before Thanksgiving 2016. His car was found abandoned the next morning, and over the following months, some of his belongings were recovered, including his pristine cell phone, which investigators believe was planted. His partial remains were discovered in early 2019, but no cause of death could be determined. Law enforcement and the Attorney General's office haven't had enough evidence to conclusively determine what happened. Meanwhile, Thomas's family and their private investigation team have long maintained that his death was a homicide. In April 2025, the Texas Tech University Forensic Anthropology Laboratory re-examined Thomas's remains. They reviewed his skull, jawbone, several arm and leg bones, and 28 of his 32 teeth. The missing teeth included his 2 front teeth and one beside them. The report noted some sun bleaching and soil staining consistent with long exposure outdoors and evidence of animal activity on the bones. According to the findings, fractures in Thomas's upper jaw and the left side of his skull were consistent with blunt force trauma that happened around the time of death. The examiner stated that early post-mortem damage couldn't be ruled out entirely, but the injuries appeared to have occurred while the bone was still fresh, meaning close to the time Thomas died. Here's the key part of the report's summary. Quote, "It is my professional opinion that skeletal alterations in the cranium are consistent with a minimum of 2 applications of blunt force. One directed to the maxilla in the region of teeth number 8 through number 10, and another to the left zygomatic arch. No evidence of radiodense material consistent with projectile trauma was observed in the radiographs of the submitted cranium and mandible." In simpler terms, that means that Thomas suffered at least 2 blunt force impacts to the head, one to the front of his upper jaw, and the other to the left cheekbone temporal area. The report also noted that since not all of Thomas's remains were recovered, additional trauma could have been missed. Animal scavenging may have also covered up other injuries. After the report was leaked, Klein Investigations released a public statement on their Facebook page. It read, in part, "You will note that the injuries to Thomas were a catastrophic injury pre-mortem to his head, which leads to the conclusion of homicide, not self-inflicted. Our conclusion was, and continues to be a homicide, as Tom literally received 2 catastrophic hits to his head, which caused his death. We believe his death certificate should reflect this." They also criticized the leak of the redacted report and called for an apology to Thomas's family. However, it's important to note that while their interpretation points strongly to homicide, the report itself does not determine a cause or manner of death. That remains the view of Klein Investigations, not an official ruling from law enforcement. As of now, Thomas Brown's case remains officially unsolved. This new analysis may strengthen the argument for homicide, but it still leaves major questions unanswered, including who was responsible and what truly happened that night. I'll continue following any new developments in this case, so if you'd like to stay up to date, please be sure to subscribe or follow the podcast. If you haven't seen my full 2-part series on Thomas's case, I'll leave it linked here and in the description. It covers the timeline, conflicting evidence, and the unanswered questions in detail. And as always, I'd love to hear your thoughts, especially on the release of this report. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Thank you for being here, and thank you for caring about Thomas and his story. I'll see you in the next episode.